having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
Hello, this is the Auburn Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So feedback is greatly important. Feel free to reach out to me either through email, Substack, and all of the other platforms that I have to reach out to me. So some of the audio platforms that I'm on Speaker, I'm on Pandora, Spotify, iHeartRadio, just to name a few. All right, so it's Friday, so I'm sitting around all of you and paying a shout out to all you listeners out there. This time I'm gonna, let me slow that down right quick so you can understand what I'm saying here. This time I'm gonna focus in on Polish fashion. Here we are, and here we go. This one is particularly going to be short and sweet. So, I don't want to drag it out. But, I'm going to give my thoughts. So, oh my gosh, me. What do I think about fashion, particularly when it traces to international fashion? And, we, as I mentioned before, heavy hitters like France and Italy, there's reasons why they are looked to be the inspiration of fashion because of all of their contributions that have brought to the fashion world with their fashion houses and their innovative techniques with textiles and everything else, and they have long-standing traditions in doing so. Now when we translate that and go on to other cultures, particularly cultures like Poland, I have so much respect for countries like this. There's countless countries like this. When you get into the aspects of Scandinavian culture, you get in the aspects of Slovakian culture and Romanian culture, and you get and further, further extend out into this sort of European aspects of culture. They understand the aspects of how important it is to stick and stay to your traditions and how that translates into modern culture. And so the embroidery, takes a lot of work and a lot of artistry. There's a lot of artistry behind embroidering things onto material, particularly when you get in the aspects of vests, you get aspects of dresses and so forth. And it's sort of, to me, from my point of view, it represents as a finished piece of accent to tell a story about the particular item of clothing. But in this case, when we get into countries like Poland, they take it a step further by stressing the means that they symbolize what's valuable and important to them, and the status of of their roots and their embroidery, what's on their clothing. So other people, can look out where there's other cultures, where it be American culture, where it be, all over the world. Let me just wrap it up to that. All over the world, they can understand their roots and their traditions and what they see is favorable for their land. So with all this said, I am going to get into some facts about Polish fashion. Here we go. Okay, of course, source will be provided for you, excuse me, in this episode. So let me move right along here. All right, so traditional Polish fashion has a rich and diverse history influenced by the country's Slavic heritage. So regional variations and external cultural interactions are as said. So the evolution of Polish fashion can be traced back to the late 15th century. So with influences from German, Czech, Russian, Lithuanian, and Hungarian cultures, resulting in approximately 60 unique regional costumes. So these traditional garments were often handmade, featuring intricate embroidery with patterns and colors symbolizing a personal marital status, wealth, and origin. So during the medieval and Renaissance period, Polish fashion underwent significant changes, introducing new styles, materials, and decoration methods. Trade with Europe brought luxurious materials like silk, velvet to be exact, as one of the examples, along with more diverse and rich clothing options. So tailoring also evolved, creating clothing that fit the body better than loose garments which was worn previously. So, there's something to be said about the aspects of the tailored look. So the Polish nobility played a significant role in the shaping of distinct and lasting fashion identity, blending traditional and aristocratic flair. So by the time the 18th and 19th centuries hit the scene, the Polonized style of gown became very popular. So the Polonized was characterized by an overdress and petticoat in which the overskirt was puffed and looped by means of tapes and rings sewn in the skirt. So the term Polonized was used broadly to refer to any overskirt that was puffed or draped over an underlayer. So again, this gets into the aspects of the importance of status and class, and going along the lines from my point of view about the aristocrats and luxurious aspects of looking and just looking of a certain status there. So by the time the 20th century came around, it saw a significant change in Polish fashion, particularly during the communist era. So when the centrally controlled fashion industry was subjected to policymakers, despite this, the post-war period marked a national struggle to rebuild the country. So in the cultural thaw of in 1956, which unearthed in the golden era of Polish design and fashion. Again, as I state, you can tell people, particularly is quite interesting and it's quite funny to me when particularly young people, American people, I'm just going to be quite honest about it. They're just being useful idiots because they don't understand the impact of what it's actually like to be in a communist country or a communist rule. The stagnation and just how depleting and bleak that is to be in a society built up with, communist thoughts, because, I don't know what to say about that. But, this is a really good example of communist, when you live in a communist regime, a communist ruled country, everything is stopped as far as progressive, really, truly progressing towards greatness, towards flourishment, towards betterment, empowerment for people and the citizens in the aspects of developing the country, where it be, economic rule and so forth, the arts and so forth, and everything else. It's just at a standstill because of unnecessary ideologies getting in the way of that, and just that's something to really consider when we get into the proof of point of which I stated about. There was no sense of fashion development when Poland was under communist rule during that time. All right, so to wrap up, in recent years, there has been a notable comeback of traditional Polish clothing, with designers drawing inspiration from the intricate patterns of low wicks, embroidery, or the bold colors of karakol skirts, and to create contemporary pieces with a nod to Polish heritage. So this fusion of old and new has helped to revitalize traditional crafts and introduce them to a global audience, celebrating Poland's cultural history in modern context. All right, so I am going to close with this. All right, so sources will be provided for you again, as I like to do. So you wanted to extend the conversations and information, feel free. You can look at the sources. So, historical significance and symbolism. Poland's traditional clothing has its roots in our country's rural communities dating back centuries. Each region of Poland has its own distinct style of dress reflecting the local culture, traditions, and histories. So these clothings were usually handmade and featured with intricate embroidery, as I mentioned, with patterns and colorful colors often symbolizing a person's marital status. See, again, it's quite interesting with the aspects of how this goes back to what is very prevalent to culture, particularly Polish culture, is where a woman stands in her aspects of marriage. So it's quite interesting, it was a time, going on and to American culture, particularly when we get, even during the, it was more prevalent of women being more carefree and loose, when we get into the 20s, being more, wanting to be that single gal in charge, that boss bee on the scene, if you know what I mean. And so, it kind of started to fall out the wayside of the aspects and the importance of marriage. But it was a time, when we circle back to the 50s and so forth and get to the 60s and then, early part of the 60s and then, everything's changed and for what it is today, mostly. But, there are women like me that understand the importance of marriage and family and so forth. Anyhow, you were deemed as unsuitable, like there was something wrong with you if you weren't married, if you were single or a spinster. And so this goes along the lines of the aspects of, your embroidery of what you're saying to your society, what you're saying to culture. When you have these marks of beautiful work on you, what do they symbol? What do they say? They're, about your status and the culture and all that. So, not right now, and the village and they came from. So today, these traditional outfits can be seen in museums or during special occasions, folk festivals, or cultural events. Visitors interested in the aspects of Polish history can further gain insight during the trips of local museums of historical sites. One of such sites profound historical significance. So Auschwitz is easily accessible for those visiting to Krakow. Hold on just a minute. Also readily available for those who want to experience the poignant part of Polish history. Styles of traditional Polish clothing. Two main types of traditional Polish clothing are the zupan and the kąskusk. Excuse me for the pronunciation. So the zupan was a long robe worn by men, often made from silk and featuring decorative motifs. So the kąskusk, meanwhile, was a outer garment worn over the zupan, usually by Polish nobility. Women, on the other hand, wore long skirts and blouses, often made from linen and decorated with full embroidery. Modern interpretations. While traditional Polish clothing is typically reserved for special occasions, elements of these styles have found their way into modern fashion. Contemporary Polish designers often draw inspiration from traditional designs, incorporating elements like embroidery or colorful prints into modern styles. So these blends of old and new is a testament to the enduring influence of Polish rich cultural heritage. Poland's traditional clothing is an integral part of the country's cultural heritage, from the zupan to the kąskusk to the diverse regional folk costumes. So these outfits tell a story of Polish history and unique traditions of the people. So, if you want to plan a trip, it's saying, this writer is saying, map out the historical sites you'll visit. Spare a thought for the history of the woven in the fabric of Polish traditional clothing. Take a tour to get to know more about the traditional clothing if you're interested in visiting Poland. And it's a tale that is every bit as captivating as the country itself is. So I can't stress enough of the aspects of how important it is to travel, because it's like it's cathartic. You're getting outside of your own self, your own mind, your own comfort zone, and you're understanding and exploring new horizons and new territories and new culture, new everything, and that in itself makes you better. And that's something to think about too, when the aspects of clothing and tradition and travel and fashion, how all those things mix with each other. So I'd like to know what you all think. Feel free to reach out to me and to extend this conversation. And the best way to do that is through email. So that you reach the end of the Hovering Light. Tune in, turn up, and definitely take care out there. Bye-bye for now.
Having a life scholarship and being able to afford to go to college made me feel inspired to go.
When I got a life scholarship, it was such a relief.
I knew that I wanted to have an impact. Having a life scholarship through the SC Education Lottery was huge. It gave me the opportunity to make that impact right here at home.
The South Carolina Education Lottery. A better you, a better us, a better South Carolina. Visit sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.